there, warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive and I'm Meghna Deka. Well, from Jimmy Kimmel to Kingdom Chaos, President Trump is clearly controversy's favorite child. Well, the American president has traveled to England to meet the king and the queen, the royals. But protests and posters have traveled along with him. We are going to tell you just how a video of Trump and Epstein was projected onto the walls of none other than the Windsor Palace, and how the Trumps broke protocol, the royal protocols as well. 6 controversies which made the headlines during Trump's visit to UK. But first, let's start with the controversies from within. The US president is embroiled in back home as well. This is the controversy that he's embroiled in back home. Democracy khatre mein hai. But this time, it is not a chant which is coming in from the opposition in India, but it is the opposition in America which is saying this. Democracy khatre mein hai. Why? Well, this time, it is about the TV show Jimmy Kimmel Live. Well, this show has been axed. Well, this happened after Charlie Kirk's assassination. The political divide in United States, as we've seen, has only been deepening. The latest casualty of this was the popular television host of America, Jimmy Kimmel. Well, the network has announced its indefinite suspension following the controversial comments that Jimmy Kimmel had made regarding Charlie Kirk's assassination. So, let's tell you what the controversy was all about. It was stirred by Jimmy Kimmel's monologue, which he does on the Monday night, where he addressed the political fallout from the killing. And this is what he seemed to be saying, suggesting that perhaps the supporters of the MAGA gang were attempting to use this tragedy for political gain. In fact, in his monologue, he says, and I'm going to show you the quotes of exactly what he said. I'm going to start right from the start. He says, "We hit some of the new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid," he's talking about the murderer, "this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it." In fact, Jimmy Kimmel then went on to say that Trump's reaction to the murder, remember right after that, Trump was asking, "How are you feeling?" He said, "Great." And then he went on to say, Jimmy Kimmel says regarding that soundbite of Trump saying he's great, that the president, that Trump was like a 4-year-old boy who was mourning his goldfish. This is the statement which caught him in the crosshairs. Well, after this show aired, ABC issued a statement. In fact, it is the network said that we preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live for the foreseeable future. We strongly object to Kimmel's comments on Charlie Kirk, and we are going to replace this show with another programming. This is the statement which has been coming in from the entire network, which is the Nexstar Media Group, which ABC belongs to. It's an affiliate. Well, there you have it. Now let's move on and tell you what next. Well, remember, Charlie Kirk was a close associate of President Donald Trump. Trump took to social media to celebrate the news of Jimmy Kimmel's show being axed. In fact, this is the post which had come up from President Trump. There you have it. He said, "Great news for America." He then goes on to say that the ratings challenged Jimmy Kimmel's show is now cancelled. ABC had the courage to do what had to be done. Jimmy Kimmel has zero talent. Jimmy and even Seth, 2 total losers. Their ratings are also horrible. And then he essentially suggested the sacking of another such thing. But as you can see on your screens, ratings challenged. Jimmy Kimmel's show is now cancelled. Kimmel has zero talent and worse rating than even Stephen Colbert, he mentions. Well, interestingly, after Jimmy Kimmel's show was axed, Charlie Kirk's 2017 post is now going viral. Well, this is the post where Charlie Kirk, who was, of course, shot in the neck, we saw those horrifying visuals of his assassination, which was caught on camera. In 2017, you had Charlie Kirk putting out this post saying, "Jimmy Kimmel isn't funny." Well, there are many of the followers of Charlie Kirk who are saying that this is Charlie's revenge from the grave, from beyond. We leave it to you, the viewers, to decide. Meanwhile, let's also tell you how after Jimmy Kimmel's show was pulled off the air, Hollywood heavyweights have come out swinging, publicly backing the late night host. Some of them are there on your screens. Let's tell you. Well, you had Ben Stiller, the actor, who said, "This isn't right." Then you had others also joining in. For example, you have Jamie Lee Curtis, who said, "I don't think anyone should be cancelled." Then moving on, others as well. You have Kathy Griffith, the very famous comedian as well as an actor, who said it is important to support Jimmy and his family. And then you have Alison Brie, another actor who's come out and said that suspension is unreal, very scary. Essentially, that democracy itself is in the line of fire. Also, then there are other voices. You have Halsey, who's a singer, who's come out and said, "We are in the midst of fascism." Very strong words that are coming out. You also have John Legend, a legendary singer, who had said that free speech is important. There you have it. The voices coming in, the protests coming in from America. But let's also tell you what next. It's interesting to see how after President Trump and his wife Melania traveled across to England, you had massive protests there as well. So the protests, the posters, all of them carried over from America to England as well. The first visual, the first controversy that we are going to show you is right here on your screens. Protesters projected the image of Donald Trump and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein into the Windsor Castle hours before Trump landed. That's the first controversy we are talking about, the activist group. And this is a group which is calling themselves donkeys. They are known for viral stunts such as this, which are aimed at politicians, beamed a video montage onto one of the castle's towers. But let's tell you about the second controversy also, which is there. Where ahead of the visit on 15th of September, UK collective Everyone Hates Elon also unfurled this large photograph that you can see behind me, depicting US President Donald Trump posing with Jeffrey Epstein. You have the poster that you can see as well. We are going to put it on the big screen as well. Well, in this, you can see how this is the space right outside. There you have it. It's clearer for you now. Well, it is right outside on the Long Walk, which is outside the Windsor Castle in the Windsor Palace, where while the Trumps were dining inside, you had these protests outside. Let's show you the third controversy. Well, some of the media outputs have reported that Trumps kept the king as well as the queen waiting. Well, the presidential helicopter, you can see the visuals of there, was set to land at 12 noon, but only landed at 12:16 p.m. Well, the king and the queen arrived earlier at 12:02 p.m. and they were reported to have watched the helicopters landing from inside Victoria House within the Windsor Castle grounds. Of course, on the ground, what we are also picking up, reporters are telling us that even the prince and the princess, Charles and Catherine, also were kept waiting by the Trumps because there was a delay. Well, of course, when it comes to England, protocols are supreme. That's one of the protocols they allegedly have broken. The fourth controversy that we are getting for you. Well, this is quite interesting because this is during the inspection of the Guard of Honor at the Windsor Castle, where President Trump was there along with King Charles. But Trump was found himself walking a few steps ahead of the British monarch. Now, this, remember, is King Charles III. When it comes to a British monarch, you have very specific royal protocols which are in place. It's a complete no-no when it comes to royal protocol. When you have the king walking ahead, everyone must follow him. No one must follow or go ahead of the king. That's an absolute must in royal protocols. Moving on, let's tell you the fifth one. Interestingly, Trump also stepped out of the presidential helicopter, Marine One. He was, of course, flanked by First Lady Melania Trump, and then he approached the lawn where Prince William and the Princess of Wales were waiting for him. He then apparently turned to Princess Catherine and exclaimed, "You are truly beautiful, so beautiful." This is what we've been told by the British media. And apparently both the princess as well as Prince William, they were standing right next to him, and they briefly smiled at Trump's remarks. Well, as per the British royal protocol, these kind of comments about the royals are not really acceptable. And interestingly, President Trump repeated this beautiful remark for a second time during the state dinner. Listen in for yourself. Then many would say, what's wrong? Well, that's how the British royals are, I guess. Meanwhile, finally, the sixth controversy. When the Trumps were welcomed by the King and Queen at the Windsor Castle's green drawing room, Melania kept her hat on indoors. Of course, many have commented about what the hat looks like, but there you have it. That is Melania. That's the hat covering most of her face. And it's quite interesting because as per royal protocols, you can see even the Queen has removed her hat, which she was wearing earlier, but Melania did not. The First Lady did not. Well, it's been yet another whirlwind of controversies, as you can see, be it in America, be it in England. President whose presence somehow seems to have sparked off massive controversies. We've seen how he seems to be controversies' favorite child. In fact, every day he steps out, it seems that he's stirring up a storm. So let's go across to our panelists. Joining us today on the show, we have Christopher Hale, Democratic strategist. Also, David Sofair is joining us, Republican strategist. David, I'm just going to come across to you first. Why is it that Trump seems to be attracting controversies, attracting protests wherever he goes? Whether it's in America, whether it's in England, it's been a very busy day.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me, and it's good to see everybody on the panel. Trump is doing a historic state visit. It's the second visit in the UK, which is unprecedented for a sitting president to have. There has been a lot of good that has come out of the meetings there with America's special relationship with the UK. It's been nothing but productive for not only the Americans, but for the UK. Things like ending the war in Ukraine has been discussed fervently. Also, $170 billion so far of trade deals, of reciprocal trade deals and global security has happened as well. Now, the beauty of democracy is there's always going to be some protests. However, the images that were transcended onto
England,
the palace.
You're talking about the royal protocols?
So the protocols is something else. Of course, there's, when you're visiting somebody else's house, I could see that you've, picked out some points that some minor protocols have been, possibly breached, and, that's something else. However, it's important to say that those 5 people that put up those images have been arrested by the police as well. So that is not protest, that is a criminal act. So, there's a big difference between protest and criminal act, which unfortunately happened on his historic state visit.
So that's just one of you are saying. Christopher Hale, do you agree? Let's talk specifically about England first. We'll come to Jimmy Kimmel and the American controversy. Let's talk about the English one first. Christopher Hale, do you agree?
Yeah, I think that the trip itself, I thought, was done remarkable. I think that the American people are kind of used to these faux pas. I want to criticize the president for a legitimate thing. Being 3 minutes late to a meeting is not a legitimate criticism. Melania's decision to wear a hat doesn't really bother me. It doesn't bother the vast majority of the American people. And also, this claim that he was walking ahead in Charles. I just think they're illegitimate criticisms. I think my side of the aisle can say they're fired. There are legitimate things to talk about, legitimate criticisms about this president. We're going to talk about a few.
I'm not talking about the protocols here. Sorry to cut you off, but Christopher Hale, I was talking about the protests which were carried out. For example, the visuals that we can see on our screens as well, some of them with pictures of Trump and Epstein being projected onto it. Yes, it's a criminal act, but look at the protests as well. Christopher Hale.
They seem like great protests to me. I think that we definitely should allow them. I mean, the United Kingdom should allow them. I think that a big issue that I have with the Trump administration is this squashing any kind of protest, any kind of pushback whatsoever. And that is perhaps the biggest concern I think my party brings forth with this administration is, are we allowed to disagree with this administration publicly, vocally, and not have to force a government put down upon us?
Okay, let me put that question across to David as well. David, America's the oldest democracy. Does it continue to be a democracy is what they are asking now. At least the Democrats are asking, is it still a democracy? Are you not allowed to criticize the ruling regime?
Well, first of all, President Trump was duly elected, and nobody stands for free speech more than the Republican Party. That has been clear. We have repealed and replaced a lot of the Democrats' freedom of speech and all that stuff. But that's not the issue here. What the issue is that you have if we're talking about Charlie Kirk and ABC, you have ABC, which is the American Broadcasting Corporation, and they made a decision to get rid of Jimmy Kimmel. Now, why did they do that? Well, they've been under lawsuit for defamation, which Trump successfully sued them from, and but also there's clauses in the contract with the viewership on his show. I met Jimmy Kimmel. His numbers and ratings are unfortunately way down. So when you peel back the onion, this was a decision that ABC made to protect themselves, but also get an exit clause to get one of their really underperforming shows, off of the air at a very strategic way.
So are you saying that,
there's a lot more than
David, are you saying that the shutting down of Jimmy Kimmel Live has nothing to do with the statements that he had made? Because even ABC themselves said it had everything to do with the statement he made on Charlie Kirk.
Sure, but I'm giving the viewers here some context to say about who fired Jimmy Kimmel, right? So Jimmy Kimmel's an employee of the ABC network. ABC network has come under fire for misinformation and comments that were made that were defamation. So they were successfully sued in the court of law, and that was settled. So they acknowledged that. So this is another firestorm that they've created. Jimmy Kimmel's ratings have gone down in a big way in recent months or whatever. So as a result, they made a business
I find it interesting that you say that. Let me take that across to Christopher, because no one said it's about the ratings. The network never said it was about the ratings.
They should be saying it's about it. I mean, that is something that's there as well.
It was President Trump who talked about the ratings, not the network. If the way you are somehow using the two of them as synonyms, Trump and the network, which is the question precisely, isn't it, David Sofair?
It's not misinformation at all.
Can you hyphenate the president and the network?
So it was the network's decision to sack Jimmy Kimmel, in other words. So yeah, it wasn't Trump's decision to try. I mean, of course, everybody was, offended or by some of his comments on, a political commentator and private citizen who was assassinated. It was in poor taste. It certainly was.
Yes, in a democracy, you do have things like the judiciary, the judges. But anyways, Christopher Hale, where do you stand?
The complete watching of what happened. The FCC car went on.
Well, unfortunately, there seems to be a bit of a problem there with your audio. Christopher, unfortunately, I can't hear you. But anyways, it's time for me to wrap up this show. Thank you so much, Christopher Hale, for joining us. David Sofair, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. There you have it. You have the Republican side, you have the Democratic side. It's up to you, the viewers, to decide which side you want to pick. But the point is, should there be such a deep ideological divide? Is this not what democracy should be about, or is this where democracy is headed in America? Well, we leave you to decide on that. With that, a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll return right here in 2 minutes.